So what I would like to convey that our language, right, is not a problem, and our thought process is not a problem because those problems are universal. It has nothing to do with the background, the culture. So I really hope that I can use my own example. We should feel comfortable communicating whatever language that we're communicating in the company. My main job is to using English to communicate to I think on average, I'm having 6 or 8 meetings with all those people at Amazon to show my value. So what tech roles, right? Can be data science, can be engineers, and I think that many of us are still not so confident in our communication, right? I'm not saying that we're not good at the English. I think our English is fine, our spoken English is fine. But I think somehow that we feel like when we communicate, when we have meetings with people, with our peers, with our managers, with our directors, that we still feel that we don't think that our opinion will be appreciated. We don't think that we're adding the same value as the people that are from different countries. So um, so what I would like to convey that our language, right, is not a problem, and our thought process is not a problem because the things that we're doing at work, right? So let's say the problem for customer experience, a customer for marketing, whatever. Those problems are universal. It has nothing to do with the background, the culture. So I really hope that I can use my own example that we should feel comfortable communicating whatever language that we're communicating in the company. And particularly for myself, that I think I still have a very strong accent from from my early experience with English. And I came to the United States 9 years ago, and my English sucked. Right, I couldn't communicate at all. But now my main job is to using English to communicate to. I think on average, I'm having how many meetings? 6 or 8 meetings with all those people at Amazon to show my value. So I really hope that if you right, if we think that sometimes that we're not that confident in using English, please remember that that is no problem. And I can share one example that I also do a lot of interviews at Amazon, and every single time, right, because before I start the interview, I will tell the candidate and saying that, hey, if at any point of the interview if you do not understand me because my accent, right? Because I do understand that because my accent that the candidate cannot understand me. I basically say, okay, if there's something that you do not understand from me because of my accent, please let me know and I will clarify for you. So, um, which really means what I'm trying to convey that accent or the way that we speak is no problem. And I wish that we all know that language is not a problem for us in United States and not a problem in the workplace. So that's why that's the main purpose that I'm using English as a way to convey the course today. And secondly, about the series. So I gave a one presentation last year, and I think that I hope that many people have benefited from my sharing. And what I would like to do this year is to make it more comprehensive and more systematic for people to learn the role and really to understand that what do we do, because I don't think that the role of a PM is for everyone. I think some of us will hate the job because that we do a lot of meeting writing and email writing. It's not a job for everyone, but I do know that many people are interested. So I would like to really to expand that what I have shared last year to make it more comprehensive. And we're going to have 5 episodes starting today. So today is the first one. It's going to be on monthly cadence every month. Towards the end of the month, we're going to have an episode. So today is the first one about to an introduction of what we do on a daily basis. And then we're going to hit on how we can make it work and how we think about product. And then lastly, that I think in July, we're going to share if if you want to get into the space, right, how we can get into the space to be a PM if you are interested. And the last thing is that this, right, the forum that we're having right now with the Career Up is not the only forum that we can communicate, because I do mentor people offline, and if you would like to have an offline conversation with me to learn more about my job, about the PM, about the industry, about Amazon, feel free to reach out to me. I'm very happy to have a conversation with you, or we can have a mentoring session. So to really that if you're interested, I'm very happy to provide some offline information as well. So that's about all the introduction, which already takes 5 minutes. And then, so we're going to get into the core of today's, right, what about the basics of a PM. So before I do everything, I do want to, actually for my, as part of my self-introduction, that my role is within payment. So I'm managing the a product called Amazon Store Card, which provide 5% cashback. So one of my KPI every single year is to book as many customers as possible. So if you're interested, if you are an Amazon shopper, right, if you want to get a cashback, take a look at the product. Search Amazon Store Card, you can get a 5%. So anyway, so that's what I do. And so about the basics of the PM, right, I want to do some clarification, because the term of PM, I think sometimes has been abused in a different way. So I would like to start. We can use the example on Amazon, right? When we say PM, it can be means two different things, right? So we have the one that we're talking about today, right? The PM, the product manager. So that's the product manager. And then we have another one at Amazon, we call it program manager. And then sometimes we will here call it project manager. So, right, they all stand for the term PM. So in short, the product manager is basically about the, about the product, right? About to define the product vision. It's about how we think about the customer experience, etc. And the program is really about about execution. So how it works that with Amazon. So I'm using the Amazon as an example. That so when the product manager, they define a product, we define a feature, and they get the funding for the product, right? They're going to, for each project, when they start the project, in terms of execution, right? Each product will have a program manager to manage the project from the start to finish line. So we can see that the relationship between the product manager and program manager is really that product manager will define what to do, and the program manager to make sure that the idea of the program manager will be implemented as desired. The last one, project manager. So we do not have it at Amazon, but I assume that based on my experience, so before I was at Chase, I think that at many companies that the project manager is the same as the program manager. So those are three different roles that can be called as a PM. So next time, right, when you go to a party, when you go to a board game party, if somebody says, "Oh, I'm a PM," please clarify, right, what that PM stand for, right? Very likely that they're not hiding the position that you are thinking that they're having, right? It's possible they can have program manager, the project manager, not necessarily the product manager. And by the way, I think that highlights another group practice, right, at work, not just for me as a PM, but also please do not use acronym when not necessary, right? To use a full name that can make communication much easier. So, if we wipe out the project manager at the bottom, so right, and talk about, so on Amazon, right, different levels. The product manager that we usually that we can just look at from So L5, L6, L7, same here, L5, L6, L7, right? So if you are familiar with the level of Amazon, number one, then the level of Amazon is very flat, or is flatter than other companies that compared to Amazon, right? I think we're flatter than Microsoft, and definitely we're flatter than other companies. So, and usually that for corporate employees, corporate employee means that right in the office. So they will start at the level 4, and so but for the PM, for the product manager, I think this actually might have the program might have 4. I need to confirm. So for product manager, that we start with L5, which means that there's no entry level product manager role. So because we start at L5, and how so usually people will come to Amazon with some industry experience, or they can be an internal transfer from, let's say, data science or let's say operation to be a product manager. So they will start at L5. And L5, we're talking about, right, 2 or 4, about 2 to 4 years of working experience and some industry experience for your product that you're owning. And then the next one will be L7, right? And then we're going to add a senior, it's called a senior product manager. We talk about 5 to 7 years of experience, etc. And then if we're going to, right, going to 7, L7 is pretty high at Amazon, and there are 2 tracks. So you can be a principal product manager, and then you can also be a senior manager, and then senior manager or product manager, which means that you are basically now becomes a manager role, and the principal manager is an individual contributor. For right the definition of L7, if you can right become L7, that's pretty awesome at Amazon. And the definition right of L7 is basically mean that you are managing, or you are designing, or you are making a product that can change what is called the industry changing role, or industry changing product. So which really very high impact, and which means that you really need to be able to define or define a product that can change the landscape. And then so that's L7. And then if you go above, usually for IC, I think IC the L7 is the highest. If you want to go even higher, L8, I think you will be need to manage a team. So I think that naturally that you will transition to a manager role. And then for program, I don't know. I think 5 to 7, we have the similar structure to the product manager. I'm not sure if we have L4, but doesn't matter. So okay, so that's the kind of the different terms in the different levels at Amazon. So that's it for Amazon. I don't know the structure at Microsoft and Micro Facebook, etc. But I hope they're similar. So next, then we can touch a base about right what do we do. So I think there's a even before because before I became a product manager, I was at JP Morgan Chase. My background is finance, right? So I got my master's degree in financial analysis and risk management. And so when I was at Chase, I do my job is mainly data focused. I do a lot of data to understand the performance of the portfolio, customer behavior. So do a lot of data. At that time, right? When I hear the term, so when I was at Chase, when I heard the term product manager, in my mind, right, I had the thought that I don't think they know anything. I think they know nothing, right? That's my perspective because I was close to the data. I provide data to them, so they just look at the data, make a story, presentation. That's what they do. So I think majority of us, if we are in a data background, we tend to have the perception that we think PM role is a useless role. It doesn't do anything, right? And then there's And then there's another, I think there's another spectrum. That means, okay, product manager knows everything, right? They're the expert of the industry. They know all the data. They know, how to manage the customer experience. They know how to manage up, manage it down. They're great. They're the best of the company. So I think I think we tend to have those two kinds of thought, right? To the left, to the right. Um, which I mean have their merits, right? Depends on different perspective. So today I hope that I can share something about what we do to have a more objective view of the role and the responsibility of a PM. All right, so uh, if you open a job description, right, of any product manager role at Amazon, I think you're going to see three lines of a description, at least three, right? Number one, you're going to see, oh, do you want to be part of a great team that are going to make a great product for this blah blah industry? Let's say Amazon Music, Amazon Video, Amazon Studio, grocery, right? You'll be a part of a team that can define the industry, etc. So that's really about the product design and product vision. And then you're going to see a second line for sure, maybe not the second, but it will be part of the description. They will say, oh, you will have the opportunity to collaborate with a lot of stakeholders, right? Data science team, operations, marketing, legal, and then what else? Engineers for sure, right? To work with them to make your version to make your vision into reality, right? So that's about collaboration with other teams, and then alignment within the team to make things happen. And then third is going to be right for Amazon specifically, right? You're going to say, okay, that you will have a chance to really improve customer experience. So that's many times that's the core of a product manager do to improve the customer experience to create a product that can I think we use this word we use this word a lot, delight, right? You have a chance to delight our customer. So I think those three lines of a description are very accurate in describing what we do on a daily basis. Well, it does a very good summary. But I would like to, so what I would like to do is to using a typical day, my day, to write from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. to show what exactly I do on a daily basis at Amazon. So actually that I'm going to use Tuesday, the Tuesday 2 days ago, about what I from 8 to 5. So to show how my typical day is like. So from 8:30 to 9 a.m. that I had a bi-weekly project status meeting with my team, with my engineering team. So basically it's going to discuss about, okay, are we launching a feature? Do we have a bug? If we have a bug, how we can solve it. So very kind of a project detailed focused to look at where we are, when you are going to launch a feature, etc. Right? Any problem? So project status meeting, and then 9 to 10, I had a meeting with my designer to discuss some design or user experience question with him with her, right? To think about different design, different user flow, right? Usually we're trying to see, okay, is right. The question that we usually ask is about, okay, are we really sure that customer can understand what we're trying to do, right? Because when we design the user flow, that many times that maybe we think that customer can understand, but customer do not, because everyone has different backgrounds. So really that for us to really to understand, right, what's the right flow, that easy and straightforward for customer to understand. So that's 9 to 10. I was having a meeting with my designer about the user experience, and then 10 to 10:30, I had the bi-weekly product kind of a brainstorm meeting with another partner. So it's about we are trying to think about to developing a brand new product, and then we're trying to think, okay, collecting the right data, doing the right research about the strategic thinking. So that's the weekly meeting, and then 10:30 to 11, I was having a daily stand-up of another project, right? To see, usually it's about some escalation, right? We might have some blocking issue. Might have some performance issue. We need escalation, etc. To meet my engineering team for another project to understand what's going on. And then 11 to 11:30, I had a bi-weekly touch base with my partner team. So as I mentioned previously, that my product is the Amazon credit card business, and there's some other payment business that we touch base to understand the space of each other and learn from each other. So that's a bi-weekly meeting. And then so you can see that in the morning from 8:30 to 11:30, that I had a meeting constantly, 5 meetings already in a row. And then 11:30 to 12, that there was no meeting. So I was trying to crunch some data for a meeting for Thursday. So look at some data, prepare some narrative, and then we'll present some discussion or idea with leadership on Thursday. 12 to 12:30, have my lunch. 12:30 to 2 p.m. Right? There's no meeting because we have internal blocking of the time that makes sure that that people can do their work. So during those 1 hour and a half of my job, what I usually do that, I'm going to reply emails, writing some we call a product document, and then also do some priority planning to think about what we should prioritize for the next 1 week. Think about some so really it's about thinking, because many times that we need to think before we go to a meeting. So we have a different opinion, etc. So those kind of 1 hour and a half, writing email, replying email, writing document, and think about priorities. Okay, and then from 2 to 2:30, another user experience meeting with a designer for another project, and 2:30 to 3 had we call a project a core meeting, a core team meeting, right? Basically, all the key members, as I mentioned, that for every single project, right? Actually, it might be very helpful to understand the structure of a project, right? So we will have the product manager, which is me in this case, to say what we need to do, and then we have the program manager, who is to managing the Scrum meeting, right? Daily Scrum, managing the status, communication, resolve issues, etc. And then we have the SDM, right? The software engineering manager, who depends on the size of the project. The SDM can manage in 2 or 3, 4, 5, how many engineers. So, and then we're going to have the leading designer. So usually, at least for Amazon, those 4 people will form the core team for a project. So we'll touch base and to understand what's going on, any issue, etc. Right? And if there's an issue, how we can resolve it. All right, and then right after this meeting, from 3 to 3:30, I was invited to another meeting to provide some thought. They're having some. They would like to do something. So usually it's really about brainstorming. So many times that because of what the area that we're working on, we might be invited by other people to provide some ideas. So I was put into that meeting, had a brainstorming session. And then after that meeting, so 3:30 to 4, this is one of my favorite meeting. So for my product, that because it's a Amazon credit card, it's a credit card business, but we are not issuing the product. We are not issuing the product, right? We are working with a bank who issuing the product. So that every week, bi-weekly, we had a meeting with our partner, our banking partner, to understand their position, right? If they have good idea, any issue between our product, resolve, and also talk about priority. And then I really enjoy those meetings, just talking to those people outside of Amazon, because at least that I think, I don't know, many times I'm a big fan, okay? I'm a big fan of Amazon, but many people are not a big fan of Amazon. Many people hate Amazon or don't think Amazon is a good place to work. I think half, but I'm a big fan of Amazon. So I really like the way that Amazon operates, etc. And then also very interesting, right? When you talk to people, work with someone who's not within Amazon, because so dramatically different corporate culture, that those kind of discussion are very interesting for me. So I really enjoy those kind of external meeting with my partner. So that already four. So account 1, 2, 3, 4. So already had 9 meetings a day, and then from 4 to 4:30 reply some emails, and then from 4:30 to 5 to no, actually 4:30 to 5 is another meeting. We were reviewing a design with our legal team. So whenever, particularly for our product, that um, we when we design something, we need to have a legal review to make sure that we're not creating something that can put our you know our product or our reputation uh, into a legal risk. So that was Tuesday. 2 days ago, had 10 meetings, just talking, and so that really that I think that usually that will take about half of my day at least. So a lot of our job is meeting, right? And now, right, I think the question is, why, right? Why do they matter, right? So I think it's a natural question. Okay, you are just meeting. You don't do, you're not coding. You're not doing anything, right? Why a company or team need you? I think the answer to that question is really about, right? It's different roles of a company, right? I think there's no I don't think there's kind of a straight comparison to say, right? Um, which role is more important, right? Is it PM is more important, engineer is more important, a marketing manager is more important, etc. I think for me, that each of us has our own, um, strength, our preference, right? Because for me, that I enjoy talking, I enjoy writing, so I think product manager is a good fit for me, and I'm doing okay with my company. So, but I think that the whole thing, right? The whole team that we would need, right, someone to be able to communicate and make the decision, right? Just imagine, right? If there's a product, I think all of us can work, right? I think the problem is, right, what to work on, right? To have the direction. So really, that the whole point of having meetings is to make sure that the team is working on the right things, that we have the clear direction to move fast, to move forward. So for me, that the communication function of a PM is really, 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 right, to take that role, right, to just take the role of communication and take the role of making the decision, so the team can move forward fast and more efficiently. But I think sometimes it's hard to think that, right, that role, the importance of that role. But I do think that role is very important. Um, so so I think maybe in a different way, right? And then people will ask, okay, all right, so why you can make the decision? Why, right? Why can't engineer make the decision? So I think there's a very distinct difference between, I think everyone are able to make the decision, right? I think it's about I would say that it's about the ability to process information and then to output information. So I think the majority of what we do is to gather all those information, right? To gather information from industry, gather information from a customer, gather information from a partner, and then get all those information, right? And then to have some framework and then make a decision. So when in the workplace, the reason why that we are making the decision, because we are having those information, right? That because that's our role, that our role is designed to get those information and to make a decision. And then, right, so which means that engineers, marketers, they have their own role, right? They are doing something differently. They don't have all the information that naturally that PM are in a better position to make the decision. Now, that making decision is not an easy job, right? I can tell you that right now. So particularly that, right, when you have so much information that you want to make it. So I think make decision is easy, but then, right, how do you know you're making the right decision? How do you know that you're making a decision that everybody else will be aligned with, right? Because a lot of our job, particularly the meeting, right, is able to communicate an idea, but more importantly, to align the idea with your team. And the aligning might be more difficult and might take more time. So I think that kind of the ability to align is some kind of a skill that that a group PM will require, and that's why maybe right not everyone is suitable for the job. At the same time, that the role for PM is actually very important. So so with that, we're talking about right there. So basically, that I think what we have been trying to do that we have a lot of meetings, design meetings, scrum meetings, etc. And and then the next part, right, of our job is to writing, right? So I wipe this out. So I think for me, right, the core, right, the core of a PM is to digest information and then to communicate those information in a documented way. And then and the communication, right, comes in two forms, right? One is talking about meeting, right? So that's what we have been talking about, having a lot of meeting every single day. But at the same time, that writing, right, is another way, right, is another way to communicate. I think many of us, right, maybe not all the time, but many of us that we don't like meetings, right? We hate meetings even. I hate meetings, right? I think we're going to sometimes we'll ask, okay, why do we have to meet, right, on this? Why can't we just, you send me an email, blah, 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 just ping me, you send me a message, I reply, and then that's it, right? So, so sometimes that writing is a more effective way of communicating, right? So at least for me, that I'm trying to reduce as many meetings as possible using using with the use of writing. And personally, that I do like writing. So for PM, right, as we you do, you have a lot of meetings, blah blah blah, and then writing, right? So I think what we do just into, right, our job, right, just two things, right? Listening, and maybe three things: talking, listening, talking, and writing, right? That's all we do. We do not we don't do coding. We don't do all of that. We're not, pulling data. We don't know all those kind of morning stuff. But right, we do talking, writing, listening. So for writing, I think writing is super important, and the super important effective way of communicating to make or break a successful product manager. So and there are different forms of writing, right? There's the writing that we email, right? Email is a very important channel of writing, and text message, right? Not text, but instant messaging. That of your Slack. That's also a way of writing. That I think sometimes I think we're more careful. We're more kind of a casual, right, on Slack than on emails. But I think for me that I take every single kind of writing seriously. But I think just for the benefit of effective communication, because right, if I can clearly communicate one thing within one sentence, right, I won't do it in two sentences, etc. So so writing will be email, instant messaging, and then we have the business review, right? We have the weekly review, we have the monthly review to be able to communicate what you have done, what's your plan for next week, next month. We do a lot of writing around that, and then we have the planning documents about what we're going to plan to do for next year, for next 2 years, next 3 years, and 5 years, etc. And then lastly, that we're writing a strategy document, right? Think about our product. If we have some new ideas, right? How we're going to position our product, all in those writings. So I think one of the when I think about writing, right? I think there's a really, when I think about why it is so effective, because I imagine, right, when we talk, right, when we really talk, I don't think that we can think more than two levels down, right? So when we get some information, we're thinking. I don't think that we can, okay, think about one problem and go one level down. And then it will be hard for us to go even one level down or two level down because we couldn't kind of, I think our brain couldn't hold that information without seeing something on the paper. And then I think that's why, right, when we write, right, we have all our thoughts on the paper. We write, okay, we write, we think, right? I think we'll do reorganization. So I think that's why then if you, I mean, just practice. Well, by the way, that I think I'm going to have, uh, uh, I'll have a session specifically on writing 2 months later. It's, I think it's the episode 4 about some tips on writing because I do like writing. I write a lot. If my job is just to write, if my full responsibility is to writing, I will be super happy. So, but I also benefit a lot from effective writing. So I will have just one episode on writing specifically, but just practice maybe that right in the future. Just force yourself. I think there's a. I think we can use this one to say that that writing can okay, and then there's another when I say writing, I mean it's a narrative, right? It's a sentence, it's an essay. And then I think a lot of us we do PowerPoint. And I think a PowerPoint have its advantage and benefit. But I think that one of the disadvantage of a PowerPoint that it allows lazy thinking. So when I say lazy thinking, that because when we use a bullet point, we use a graph that easily that we sometimes right unintentionally, well, we intentionally right, leave some key assumption in the back. Either with that we don't know the answer, but we put something in the bullet point. But when we put things in the bullet point, it's also hard for reader to really to understand your logic behind it. And then right, I mean that's just we call it lazy thinking. But when we write a narrative, in the email, etc., it forces us to really think about the flow and then to force us to think about the whole thing instead of just a few numbers and make some random assumption, right? Because of A, B, because of some bad causal links. So I think if we write many times on that, if we just maybe sit down and when we want to communicate something, really focus on for 5 minutes and think about what you want to communicate, and also trying to anticipate the question from others, and then you anticipation, you incorporate that in your answer. So usually that a perfect writing basically will answer the question proactively from your audience, and then save times, everybody's happy, you're good to go. So we do a lot of writing. So anytime, when I'm not at the meetings, I really do meetings. So I think we are already at 7:45. I think we're going to have a 5 minutes break, and we'll come back at 7:50. I think for now, then please, leave some comments. You can vote questions, and when we come back, at the end of the Q&A, we're going to pick the questions that has the highest, has had the most votes. All right, cool. We'll be back at 7:50.
现在是那个我们 lecture 中间的休息时间，大家可以在我们的 chat 里面去提问题，然后我们很快就回来，然后先给大家一个休息的时间，大家喝口水放松一下。其实大家可以把那个问题抛在 Slido 里面啊，这样的话，别人也可以看到这个问题，然后可以把有价值的问题顶上去。但是好像大家都比较习惯于直接在 Chat 里面提问，这样也可以。我们回头会在 Q&A 环节，然后选几个问题向我们的嘉宾提问，也欢迎大家能够开麦，然后跟我们的嘉宾就直接进行连麦的对话。好，我们欢迎我们的嘉宾回来。
All right, thanks for staying on the line for the second half of today's sharing. So yeah, I have seen a lot of questions. Thank you for your interest in this topic. I will go through them and answer them towards the end of the session. So yeah, I'm really happy that I see a lot of response because one of my main goal, right, of this session is to I really want to hope that we will see more and more um, us, right? That more and more and more of us will be holding those non-tech roles, right? Those roles that will require a lot of communication, will make us uncomfortable, but sometimes also more have the power or the role to make the decision, right? To influence people. I think that similar to that maybe some of my passion outside of work that I'm also very into social topics, and I really hope, right, similar to that, similar to how that I hope that see more of us will be moving to a product role, those kind of communication heavy roles. I also hope that similarly, I hope that, right, I think with that, right, we're going to have a higher confidence. We also influence the way that we're going to operate off work, right? I hope that we can, be more active, in the political world. We be more active in the social change, etc. So I think that is one of the key tenets of my meeting. That I hope that through my sharing. I hope that you like the role of PM. You might not like it, but I hope you like it. And then, right, really, right, if you really like it, please, right, to try to make it happen. And then so we will see that our Chinese community, will have a higher or better presence in those big corporations. All right. So we talk about, right. I think we left and we right basically that my daily job is splitting, right, talking, listening, and just do writing. So that's what comes to okay. I would like to briefly talk about right about my day to day, right. What kind of a tool that I use at work, right? Very simple. I don't use anything fancy. It's actually super basic, right? My top, I think. I think I only use 4 software, Outlook, right? I need Outlook to schedule meetings, to send emails. So Outlook is number 1. And then the second most used is is called Quip. Quip is I think it is a Salesforce software that people can write document, sharing documents. So basically, it's a document sharing tool, and then so that's the second most used, and then the third most used is Microsoft Word, writing document, writing information, and the fourth one is Excel, right? Excel to just do some basic data manipulation, and then with Excel in the pivot table. So we don't really use any fancy tool because we don't really need. So if you are if you are really into new technology, you want to enjoy all those kind of fancy coding, maybe PM is not the right position for you because we're just using simple tools. And then I would like to briefly touch base on kind of that I think very important for me and also for the success of a PM is about about the allocation between strategic and the execution, right? How much time that we should spend on strategic, how much time we should think about execution. I think there's a trade-off over there, right? So um, ideally, right? I think the ideal role for PM, from my perspective, right, that the moment that we're able to get the funding for project, the moment that we're able to get alignment, get approval for project, our job should be done. Our job that because right there will be a different team will take your idea and push to market. Right, I think at that time the ideal scenario that your job is almost done, but you will also, but understandably that you will be involved in the daily conversation, Scrum, um, issue resolution, and then performance assessment, etc. But ideally, that when the project is really right, is approved and ready to go, I think that the focus should be moved to forward-looking, right? What else that we need to do? So I think for a good PM, that I think is really the allocation that I strive for, right? 70, 60, 40, 70, and 30. And the trade-off going to be, I think there's also a dilemma, right? So because there's what we call short-term gain and and a long-term gain, right? Because you focus on the short term, you make sure that all the execution is perfect, right? You get the the result, might be good for your performance, and then the long term that you think about something that has not happened yet, but you're thinking about okay, we should do A, B, C, D, E, and how we can make it happen. We write a document about why it is important, etc. So I think the key is really to for example, in my space, right? So, even though we're in Amazon, the e-commerce shopping, but there's many different businesses within Amazon, right? For me, it's we're credit card businesses. So basically, under the umbrella for payment business, there's so many things that we can do, right? So there's always something that we can improve customer experience. So in terms of strategic, right, we think about today, we're providing a 5% cashback, right? For all the purchase on Amazon, right? The question is, right, can we even do better, right? Is there customer that are not happy with 5%, right? Do they want 6%, 7%? Well, they don't care about cashback. They might want some other kind of benefit. Maybe they want, Prime membership for free. They want to play a game for free, etc. So those kind of, and at the same time, right? Okay, we have credit card businesses can get into other payment businesses, right? To meet the needs of customers. So those kind of are really about strategic thinking, and I think it's the key is about you to balance or at the same time have a mentality of trying to stay not do not stay trapped in the details, because it's when um, I yeah, I think I hear, right, so some colleagues, some other people with a position, right, they will complain about meetings, etc., complain about the day to day. But I think there's a mentally, right, there's a mental exercise that as a PM that we should do is really to always, right, prioritize vision, prioritize what to do next compared to what we're doing right now, because that we are paid, right? I think a PM is paid to figure out what to do, not to do things, you know, not to execute things. So I think so. I think if you want to, if you are a person that really, right, great, every single day you have a good idea, I think PM will be a great place for you. If you are, right, really into details about execution, etc., maybe consider program manager who data related jobs, because data data is a I think I do think that a lot of people here, right, the data scientists, business analysts, if you really like details, I think data can be a great position for you. But I think just want to emphasize that a PM is paid to think about what to do next, right? What to do within next 1 year, 3 years later, 5 years later, and that is should be the focus of our job. And then trying to stay out of the execution details and be hands off, but at the same time you maintain the balance to make sure that your project can be delivered and provide those assistance that your engineers or your designer would like to get a feedback on. So I think if you are okay, I hope that I think there might be some engineers here, right? I think some engineers will say, "Oh, I never, my program manager are so busy. I never get to get feedback from them. I send them a question, they don't come back. They come back 1 week later, etc." So I think that is not good, right? I think because you still need to have the ownership. You still need to really to be in close contact with the person that help you deliver your project. So I think it's some interesting balance, but at the core of our job is to really think about what to do next, not right now. Um, so right, I think that's we I think that's the good um, talk about strategic versus execution. And the next thing that I would like to whenever, right, we're talking about talking, meeting, and then talking about writing, I think the word politics will come into play, right, naturally, right. So I think my personal experience, at least, right, I think I shared the levels of a PM, product manager at Amazon. I think for those kind of right, entry or low levels, right, to me that 5 and 6, I think that the politics are less, because right, we're really on the forefront, right, of the job, that we are very close to the customer experience. We are very close to the product. So people are really busy, not so much time to for politics. But I do think that, right, when you are going up 7, 8, and 9, right, there will be really some about, right, we so-called that this the storytelling will be more and more important, right, to trying to I think it's interesting to see sometimes a situation, based on how you communicate. It can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, right? It's really about if you can find a way to make the story sounds good. So I do think that, right, when you go up 7, 8, 9, 10, that maybe there will be more politics involved. So, but I think that it's all about. I think it's about personality thing. But I do think that right, and that politics is a one way for communication at a company, right? It doesn't mean it's a bad thing, right? It's about right. It's about really to people trying to figure out the best way to to make communication work, right? To trying to align, because I think sometimes the information can be very tricky, right? It's about okay to find the balance of the effectiveness of the communication at the same time to maintain the accuracy of the information. I think as long as right people are not trying to to manipulate or trying to present some inaccurate information, then I think the way that people are trying to make communication work with reporting and writing, I think that's part of the business, and I think by that's why I think talk about the personality, right? If you really enjoy, right, trying to work with people, you enjoy about trying to make the team work as a team, and so I think one important thing that when we talk about right, we're saying briefly talk about the priority planning. Right, priority means right, how do you prove that your project is more important than others project, right? I think that will involve a lot for thinking and writing to convince people that your job, your project will create more value than the other project. So if you really right, you like talking to people, you like to convincing people, I think PM will be great job for you. And with that, I think the politics will be part of the equation. And I think the what is good about right about I would say about Amazon is that we have some framework is to make some the making the decision making, and then some success metrics simpler, right? We have a tool we call the web lab. Basically that we do experiment, and then we go through the web lab, and then we look at the performance, yes or no, right, pass or fail. So I think that helps eliminate some of bureaucracy or blaming games, right? To be honest with you, and then we also have a very clear. Now I want to talk about the Amazon leadership principle. Those 14 principles, I know, I know, right? If you have gone through Amazon interview, if you're already at Amazon, if you are at different companies, right? You might have heard of Amazon leadership principle. You might very likely. I would not be surprised if you hate it because those kind of just slogan that those Bezos just think of out of his mind, and then just print them out and hang on the wall. That's it. No, I think at least I mean I was right. I think I have been through different corporate culture. Yes, many times that those companies will have those kind of principle value, but they don't use it. It's just their decision is not following those values that they are advertising at at the meeting with Wall Street analysts. But I think for Amazon that we're really following those kind of leadership principle. We're using them in our daily decision framework, right? I think most important thing that we are using is the customer experience, right? We do. I think at least my experience with Amazon that we do use a customer experience as a guiding principle for decision making. So that really makes the process or the yes or no decision simpler, because that is a decision or the framework that each of us, all of us, have agreed upon. So that's about that, right? I think if we're really talking about, if the question is about okay, how much the time that you spend on the politics, how much time you put that on real work, I think we spend a lot of time. I think we do spend a majority of our time in real work. In politics, it really depends on the level, and it depends on personality. But I think overall, then at least for my org, we are doing okay with the politics. Maybe I will see more going forward if I'm able to, lucky enough to level up. I will see more of that. But as I said, I think that's part of the job. That's part of the your job description to be comfortable with the thing. And lastly, I think um, that I think we got some question from the audience about right what is the how the performance of a PM is evaluated. So I think the number one thing that right is if right I think there's different organization also depends on the product that you're managing. If your product right has a very very clear has a very clear indication of performance or KPI, then I think that will make it easier. For example, for me, that the product that I'm managing is Amazon Store Card. It's a credit card, right? I would like to acquire as many as new customers as possible every single year. So I will use that as a key metrics for my performance, and then right in every single year because when we do the planning, right, we're going to think about okay how much you can, right? What is your KPI for next year, right? And now I think this is those kind of planning is really interesting, right? I think you can play both way, right? I mean, you can play safe, right? Oh, I think I can only grow by 5% or 10%, but I think oh, I cannot grow at all because of A, B, C, D, E, or right, and then you can also go whatever. I want to grow 50%. I want to set a bar so high. So I think it's a bad because we right in the previous section, I talked about the leadership principle. This one, right, is called thinking big. So there's a tendency that for all of us, people to really think big. So we have that goal, and then we're trying to hit that goal, right? So I think that's if the product is very well defined for a mature product. I think then you using that the goal that we set last year as a benchmark for your performance. But sometimes I think there's a now, I think the question is, okay, what if that you don't meet the goal? So I think many times that I'm a strong believer that I think many times that things happen for some reason that we don't know, right? I think many things happen that happen in a fashion that we don't really know the other reason behind it. Um, I'm not sure that if you have you read a book called Black Swan, right? It's about really about the probability theory about right, how to explain things. I think one of the key things about right many times we think we know but we don't know, right? We're just trying to connecting two data points and think that they're connected but they're not. So I think my point is that if we do not meet a goal, I think that it can be right can be all kinds of reasons, right? So in that case, right, the key is really to to be able to explain what happened and then do as much as I think my point is that when we do not meet the goal, it doesn't mean that we're bad, right? Because there's some factors it out of our control, etc. So I think the key is really to find a way to explain, that so-called storytelling to have a good story. Um, and also there's many times that right. Let's say if you just join the team, you don't own a product, and also many products they are long term, right? It can be a product can be in development for years, 2 years, 3 years, and you know if you succeed, okay, great. If you fail, you fail, right? We have there has been many failed product at Amazon, iPhone, whatever. So I think in that case, right, one of the many important, very important measure of our success is about really about thought process, right? Can we really need to show that we are making contribution to the decision framework? We are leading the team on the same product track, etc. So about a contribution to the thought process, and when if we can, right, I think if we can write right a great I think there's a term called memo, right? If a great memo to outline right your thought process that can determine or can help um, the, the company to invest in that direction. I think that is already a huge success. Doesn't mean that it has to be successful, but it's really about the way that if we have the right way of thinking and have the right way of developing the product, right? I think the failure happens, right? I think I have a strong belief that, right? As long as we're using the right way of thinking, right? Let's say we do 10 products, right? For one product succeed, it will be, it might blow up, it might be the best thing forever. So for in the case of that, we do not meet the goal, or in the case of that the product doesn't have a very clear definition, or clear quantifiable definition of success, that our thought process, our way of influence the product design, our way of influencing the product strategy within the company is also a huge factor in determining if you are successful or bad PM. Because if we know that you can think, right, you can communicate, and even though the product you are doing right now is not that successful because of all different reasons, but we are confident that, right, if when you are managing the other product, you will be able to succeed in one way or another. So, so I think that's about how I think about the success metrics of a PM. Um, and then, and also sometimes I struggle thinking about, right, when you move higher and higher. Let's say you become the CEO, or you become the director, or you become the CEO. How do you really measure the success? I think sometimes I struggle about, right, because let's say right, a person have a great team, you manage to say 10 PMs, 20 PMs, right, have a great year, but doesn't mean that it's because of your success or etc. I can use the example last year, right, because of COVID-19, that a lot of business at Amazon benefited from the trend of a stay-at-home order, right? The sales, everything just surged 30 or 40%. So it doesn't mean that because we're doing a good job. No, because of the external environment that make your performance look better. And then similarly, it can happen also in the reverse direction. So I think right, for people that are really senior, right, the director, VP, I think sometimes I think about how we can really measure their performance, right? How can we say that the team success or failure is because of them? And right now, I think my thought process is really about, right, when a person in that position, the way that he coaches, the way that he guides, right, basically that I think the way that I'm thinking about is really to that basically that the leader multiplies, right, his thought process into 10 folds, 20 folds, and then as long as the method of the leadership is the leader is directionally correct, right? And then you have the 20 or 30 people doing the right thing, right? Maybe 10 fail, 10 succeed, but then we all know that when you succeed, right, the size of success will outweigh the size of failure, and then right, and then on the average, that the team will be the right direction of the performance tracking. So I think what I'm trying to say that many times that the success of a person should be determined by their thought process, right, the way of thinking of the product, instead of by 1 year or short-term metrics of their product that they're owning. So that's about. I think that's how we do the performance review in many fashion at Amazon. Not just only look at the metrics if they're hitting. We also look at some other factors about the potential, about the contribution to the team, the coaching, etc. So have a comprehensive review of the performance of the PM. All right, so I think that I hope that concludes the speaking session of today, and I hope that I have provided an okay or comprehensive overview of what we do on a daily basis, and we can move to Q&A section. Okay. Now you're muted.
那个疫情，哎，你那个被 unmute 了。
All right. So for the QA session, we do recommend people to open the microphone to talk to the speaker directly, but we also do have several questions posted on Slido. The one that has most votes is asking, would it be possible to get a product manager job without industry experience?
Yeah, so I think that will be challenging. I think an easier way is to the easier way is to do internal transfer actually. So I do see a lot of within our team that we have a lot of data scientists turned product manager. So because they when they are the data scientists, they get exposure to the business, right? That can translate it to the industry experience. So I'm not. I think right. Those kind of requirements is not set in stone. Particularly, I do not think from practical perspective that industry experience is a must to be a successful PM. I think it's just unfortunately that it just right when there's a competition, we prefer people with industry experience so they can be a contributor faster to the organization. But I don't think right if you have the essential skills, you should be able to do the job. But it is from the hiring perspective that it will be challenging, and internal transfer might be a more easier way for you to try if you want to transition to product manager if you don't have any prior industry experience.
Mm-hmm. I think the asker may want to ask if they do not have previous experience of being a product manager, what will be the first step of transferring to a PM role?
Yeah,
what do you think about this?
Yeah, it's about okay. So this I want to. So this is about industry experience, not the working experience, right? So the person still has working experience. So the as still, I think if you just apply from outside, let's say if you are SDE or senior SDE at Microsoft, if you want to, or if you are data scientist, if you want to data scientist in one particular industry, let's say you are in Microsoft, a data scientist in Office product, and then say if you want to apply for product manager for for financial service industry, I think that would be hard from just the resume screening perspective. So how to get there, right? I think you may want to try to make a resume relevant to the role that you are applying for. I can use my example. So I was more like I would say maybe in general term I'm more of a business analyst or data guy at Chase, right? So I was in the credit card industry, I was in the payment industry, so but I was holding data related role. So when I applied for Amazon for this particular role that I'm holding right now, fortunately, I was applying for a data science job, but I was declined because I did not have the modern experience that the position required, and then refer me to the PM role. So the reason why I think they are okay because right, I was in the this industry, even though I'm not strictly doing product manager role, but I was exposed to the industry in a very heavy way. So I will recommend that, right? If you want to transition to a PM, make it as relevant as possible of your current experience, right, to the job that you're applying from the business perspective.
Mm-hmm. And another relevant question is that do you need a project domain degree, like your financial knowledge for the payment project? Like
Mm-hmm.
you just talk
Yeah.
about the resume, but for the resume, do you would recommend focusing more on the project part or the education part?
Yeah, I think education is a less of consideration, particularly for the product manager. We're already talking about experienced professional, right? We already have a few working experience, so we do not look at education very, very intensely. For example, when we interview, we rarely look at the education background.
Okay, thank you for answering this question. And another question is, what traits do you perceive in outstanding PMs?
Yeah, so I think for me that the right, I think we're talking about that writing is important to just to communicate your idea, but we talk about those softer skill. I think it's about just to listen, right? Be a very good listener will be super important. Um, the many times that when we have meetings, we're not trying to, I think have, right? Sometimes we're trying to, have an idea, just say, okay, this is my idea, say yes, and we're good to go. But many times it doesn't go that way, right? We present our ideas, we get all kinds of feedback from people. And the reason why people give feedback is not because they're trying to make you feel look bad, because they're trying to provide some, information that you don't know, so you can make your proposal better. So really, really that be open-minded, and then listen to all kinds of feedback, and then incorporate and make your proposal better. I think that is so important to be a good PM, because really, I think in a sense that what we do, I think all we are doing is collect information and output information in a format, right, in the email or document. And then be open-minded, so we can get as much as information from people, and then to make our proposal better. Because I don't think, that that PM needs to be very smart. And in reality, that I don't think we need to be smart to be a PM. I think we just need to be open-minded, and I think that will be way more important to being smart. And then I think that also speak to that will also help you earn trust. Earn trust is very important, because you are just collaborating with all kinds of people, and many times that we're requesting people to do things for us, right? Sometimes, I think maybe that's why, some of you might hate PMs, because they can, email you, or ping you in the evening, over the weekend, to asking for, oh, can you give me the data, can you fix this bug, whatever, you hate them. I think that's why I think the trust becomes so important, because when you build the trust, that when you make those requests, you're not because you are trying to for yourself, because they will understand that you're doing it because it is urgent, it is important for a business, it is important for the customer. So I think earning trust and then be open-minded to be a very good information collector is super top two. I would say the top two attributes. And because I think I really don't like the term called industry expert, because I think right now with all this information, right, we can be expert for anything, right? If we want to devote time by reading Wikipedia, we can be expert, within 1 week for anything. So, but yeah, I think so, which means that as long as we have the information, we can be the expert in anything. But it's really about to be open-minded, getting all the information, making the right decision for the team.
All right. In case of data collectioning and be a good listener and be open-minded, those things sound pretty subjective. So I would like to know like how a PM has been evaluated in the industry.
So I cannot comment on the industry, but within Amazon, I think it's about really if you can influence the roadmap, But if you can define a roadmap and then get implemented and see the result, particularly, I think the result might not be, actually the result is not as important as that we are able to define and communicate and get alignment for your proposal. That is way more important and that is way more difficult than just implement something which give you good result. So having the right process when, let's say, right, if you we want to do something, right, you need to be able to communicate, why we're doing it, the customer benefit, the financial performance, etc. Why it is more important than other things. So, right, I think that's how the way that we communicate and then to make people feel inclusive in the discussion and then convey that we're doing the thing following the the guideline of the the company, which is meeting the demands of a customer. Those things, I don't think they are that those those are not subjective. Those are actually very perceivable in the day to day. And when you talk to some people, you will know, right, what they are really passionate about. Are they passionate about the business, about the team, or they're passionate just about self promotion, or they're just trying to make them feel look better, etc. So um, yeah, it's very tricky. I think it is very tricky. It's really very personality related. That's why I think it's not for everyone. Some people will struggle because of it is right. It's not. Oh, we can. If I write a code, there's no bug. Great, you're good, right? If I run a model, the model, the p-value is, performance of the p-value is, 1%. It's great. I mean, for us, it's a little bit tricky, but when people will get interaction with the people, you will see who is good, who is bad.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That gives me a pretty comprehensive image of how to be a PM. Thank you so much. And another topic people are really interested is how would you improve your English in speaking and writing, especially you're just talk about writing. Can you provide some suggestions for our audience?
Yeah, I think the speaking is not as important as writing, at least for an Amazon. That we can suck at speaking, right? We can, let's say we can just only speak one word per one time. That's totally fine. But if you can, really to write your thing and then be effective, you'll be good to go. Because I think you might heard, right, particularly for PM role, that many times that we will write a document and read it for the first hour and discuss. And even when discuss, we don't even need to really to speak out. And for me, that I have been trying to really to hold my thought or hold that to be not speaking too much because I want to get as much information from my peers. So for an effective meeting, for effective PM, that we don't really need to talk much at the meeting, but writing is much more essential for communication. So how to improve writing? I think it's really that I think we can use the force function, right, to really think when we're trying to communicate something, right? Is it really clear, right? To you that we'll think of any communication to see if they can stand alone, right? If we just put it over there without further clarity, can your audience really understand? I think I use one skill that before I send out an email, before I have the doc, I will try to anticipate a question from my audience, right? They might ask this. Okay, I will think, okay, why they're asking this and add more details behind it. And I think the beauty of writing, when we force in that way, by the way, I think it has nothing to do with your grammar, nothing to do with your word, right? Simple me. I think as long as we know maybe 1,000 words English will be effective writer or communicator. And so we don't need a fancy words, really about the logic to anticipate the question from your audience, and then just read it for a few times and make sure that that it will answer the question that people will ask. I think the reason why it works so well, because when we write, when we're trying to go, right, because when we anticipate, we're trying to go one level down, two level down, three level down, right? And but when people read, usually they couldn't, particularly if I read something, I would try to understand, right, the contents. I might be able to go down for one level down, but if I go do that, right, okay, then that is already anticipated by the writer. So my answer is my question is already answered, and I will not have the mental capacity to go two level down, because if I'm the writer, I won't have that capacity. So usually that if we write and anticipate, it's going to be super effective. So I think it's really not about your grammar. It's not really. It's okay. You can make grammar mistake. Use I am, I was, I are. That's fine, right? It's totally fine because it doesn't impact the meaning of your sentence. I think it's really about anticipation and make it concise and make the narrative stand alone as a paragraph. Particularly if you cannot use less bullet points as possible, make it just using the full sentence. So you can just lead the conversation when people read your messaging. When you use bullet point, naturally that it will break the flow, and then people will wonder, will question the logic behind it.
Mm-hmm. And do you do anything in particular in case of improving your writing skills, like take a training, learning from peers, take a session, something like that?
Yeah, we do have internal, the kind of writing training, and then I think for me that it's just I write a lot and then I get feedback a lot, and just find a way to force. I will force myself. I'll force myself to write instead of meeting. I don't like meeting myself, so I will always think, can I just write an effective email, or write an effective document to answer the question that who is going to meet me, and also anticipate his question, so I can avoid 2 or 3 meetings.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I think the upvoted questioner here, I would give the opportunity for the audience to ask the question directly to our speaker. Would anyone volunteer?
Did you take the TOEFL exam before? I just wonder how is your English level on the exam? So I want to measure if I can do that as well.
Yeah, my TOEFL was a 101. I can tell you that my first attempt at TOEFL was 83, super bad, and then I took the second attempt. I got 99, and my spoken English level, I think, right, I was given 19. So 19, and then 19. And then I have the total 99. I was not happy, and then I argued. The people were kind enough to give me 2 more points for my spoken English. So I got 21, and I got over 100, 101. But in summary, I think in short that my English was super bad compared to many of you. And when I first arrived in America, that I couldn't speak. I couldn't communicate effectively. But I realized that at that time I couldn't communicate, not because I couldn't speak. I can still speak. I might not know as many words as I know right now. I might not be able to, pause and speak and flow as well as I'm right now. But at that time, if I looking back, I know I can communicate, and I do know, right? Many people or many of my peers that they might not have, as good as English as I was at that time, but they were able to communicate. I think it's really just about accent, right? Yes. At that time, I was having huge, heavy accent, and then that naturally kind of damaged my confidence. I couldn't speak out, blah blah blah. But I'm pretty sure if I can go back, if I can restore my spoken English level back to when I first arrived in America, I can still be a PM. Maybe not, right? Because I know how to write. I know if I can, as long as I speak slowly, as long as people can understand, people, right? Just be honest with them, As I said, that I do interview, right? I interview people. I tell them, hey, if you don't understand me because of my accent, that's fine. I mean, I will clarify. So I think that when you ask a question, I think your English is pretty, I would say, overqualified for any job in United States.
Okay, thank you very much. I have another question. Have you enrolled in any business degree, or your degree is actually from computer science? I just wonder, what is your degree background?
Yeah, my master was financial analysis and risk management.
Okay, that's great. Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else who volunteered to ask a question to our speaker?
Yeah, I have a question. So first, I appreciate you sharing. So my question is, when you started leading the team, what challenges did you have? And a follow-up question is, if you could go back, what would you have done differently? Thank you.
Yeah, I think my biggest challenge was that I think many of us, particularly for us that in the data domain, that I was in data domain, that we, okay, maybe I cannot represent many other people, but that's at least for me, that when I was at Chase, I thought that I was the smartest person at the team, that because I know the data, and so etc. And then I was not willing to be open to, in some cases, that I was not the biggest contributor to the team, that I was not the person who gave the best ideas for a particular topic, because I couldn't accept that, right? I was not the smartest or smarter person. So I think when I was lead something, there was I think the PM creates a perception that we have to be done right, really to know the product and really smart to lead the team. I think that kind of made me a little bit struggle in the beginning, particularly that that I want to do too many things myself. That when I transition from Chase to Amazon, I'm still trying to pull data myself because of my background. So I'm trying to do write all this query and run report myself. But later I realized that, right, I think I'm still trying to say, hey, I still know data, I'm still smart, so don't look down upon me. But the mistake was that, right, I was not using the time or using my time efficiently to do my job, because my job description is not to run data, right? My job description is to look at data and make a decision. So I think same applies to any other area like design, right? Designer knows better than us about how to design the user flow, etc. So for any other matters, so I think that the key is really to that initial struggle is I was really right, kind of having that narrow mind that I need to be smarter than other people and the team, but that is not. I think there was nothing wrong with it, but I think the problem with that will naturally undermine my perception on other people, that I not taking full advantage of their skills. So and then I think right now, I think these days, that I think I know that every person, right, within different roles, the engineers, regardless of their levels, right, they can just be fresh graduate, they can be designer, data science, whatever, right? They know their domain better than me, right? So I should be usually that, right, that I will be on the receiving end of the information. And sometimes I may be able to provide some perspective because information that I receive from other places, and then we collaborate and we do something together. But I think the key is really to admit that in many different cases that I don't know many things that people already know at my team. So I think that's the explain the struggle part. And then if I can, something I have done differently, I don't know, because I think right? It's all about learning process. I think it's part of the process. If I made a mistake, if I didn't do well, that's fine, and then I learn from it. And then, right, I couldn't say that if I go back, probably I will make the same mistake. So I think for me, that all part of the growing, all part of the growth, all part of the journey.
Thanks for sharing.
All right. Is there anyone else who wants to ask a question? If there, yeah,
Yes, I do
go
have
ahead.
another question. So, because I mean, if there's one person who actually only have the technical background, like computer science, electrical researcher, and then he work in a bank as a computer programmer, and if he or she want to promote as a project manager, do you have any advice? Because maybe she or he don't even have much financial background.
Yeah, I think because right, the engineer is already in the is in the financial service industry, so I think that can be counted as exposure to the industry. But is it very straightforward to transfer from engineer to product manager? I think it's not that straightforward. There might be something that we need to do. For example, I think I can share the journey that many people take at Amazon, right? They have the SDE, and they can transition, to program manager. We call it, technical program manager.
Yes.
And then for technical program manager, you can transition to, SDM, and then you can transition to product manager. So that will be easier.
Mm.
Have a kind of a one process in between.
Mm. Do you suggest to take the like a CFA certification, or is there any other certification to take those certificates? Yeah.
So I can tell you right now, when we interview people, we don't care about certificates. So
Okay, thank you.
no, I don't think that's useful.
Okay.
I have a question. So I'm curious about the average number of projects you are handling at the same time. So it was really insightful when you shared the schedule for your day. So that seemed like a lot of meetings, and you're handling a lot of projects at the same time. And I'm wondering if that's a ordinary day or that's one of the heavier days.
Yeah, I would say that is a heavier day in terms of meetings. But in terms of project, I think the execution piece is not as difficult as think about new ideas, because majority of our I think some of right, I think I heard some of my engineer friends complain that they never go back from their PM, right? That send an email, they got the reply 5 days later. So our involvement in the project execution is not that heavy, right? Usually that we just jump in, provide clarification. If we need to escalate, we provide escalation support. So so it's the involving in many different projects is not an indication of being busy.
I see. Thank you.
All right. I think we still have 10 minutes before closing. So is there anyone else who want to ask?
Yeah, actually, I want to piggyback on the prior question. So, so you're working on multiple projects, right? So could you share like what kind of project management tactics or tools you'd like to use to make sure all the projects are on track?
So
Thanks.
that's actually the role. That's not a role for product manager. That's a role for the program manager. So
I see.
Yeah, we don't do that. Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for asking. And do we have any other questions?
Hi, I have a quick question. So you mentioned you used to be a finance and risk management major, and then also work at Chase, and then transition into Amazon. What would be your suggestion or comments for someone who is mid-career and has always been in risk management field and in the financial industry?
So I think it's really about right what do you like, right? If you like the position, the role for data management at your company, I think there's no need to change. But if you like to, some challenge, you like to go to different environment, faster environment, particularly, I do think that the pace at the banks is much slower than their companies. So I think uh, for for risk professional, for risk management professional in the banking industry, it's actually not that difficult to transition to a fintech or tech company, and there's many opportunity out there. Um, just depends on if you want to do that or not.
Thank you so much.
And I see another audience have unmuted himself. Yeah, you can ask her now.
Yeah, but I just forgot about the question. But there's one question. I mean, I'm not sure if it is appropriate to ask here. I want to know the ratio of the woman project manager and the man project manager in the company. I'm not sure if it is more suitable for which kind of group. Yeah.
So at least within my group, I think the ratio of male is higher than female. And then I think but then I think an interesting thing for Chinese community that the female PM are more than the male PMs. So.
Okay. Yes, I can. I remember the question I want to ask before. So I have another concern is that when you interview people, I mean, let's say if the candidate actually the score is not very good, I mean, it's really not good, maybe like ranking like 200 or 300. And do you think he still have a chance to catch your eyes, or in any ways, or you think what kind of quality he should have to let you take in consideration?
Yeah, so I'm not sure about other companies' criteria, but for Amazon, we don't really care about school, particularly for the PM roles.
Even for PM, okay.
Yeah, so my school, okay, I can tell you right now, my school is Temple University at Philadelphia. Our ranking is 120 nationally. So I had no challenging of getting into Amazon, and also for my interview, when I interview, I look at those education, school. Many of them I don't know which school they are located, but it's not really that important.
Okay, so I want to know, or do you have any tips for the people who want to apply for this kind of job? And do you think what kind of things that in resume can really catch your or your colleagues' eyes to want to meet this person? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a good recruiter question. I don't know. I don't have a. So when I look at resume, as long as it's concise, convey the responsibility, convey the skills, impact. We don't really, at least I don't really care much about format. But I think what I can do, so I do have a session, right, for about 3 or 4 months ago. But I think that last one about how to get into this role, I can see if I can invite my, a recruiter of our group to the session and provide some very insights from a recruiting perspective. I don't. Yeah. For resume, I think as long as it is clear, one pager should be fine.
Okay. I think maybe when you see the resume and you think you appreciate this person, and then I think that's the point. This is my guess. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't. Yeah. It's hard to. At least I'm not trying to judge a person just based on resume.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of recruiting questions, so I think inviting a recruiter might be really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, our community is always welcome this kind of yeah, just sharing the ideas and experience will be helpful. I saw there's someone raising the hand for a while. You can now unmute and bring your question.
Thank you. I have a question about the difference between program manager and product manager.
Yeah.
Myself, I work for, I'm on the track for being a tax manager in PwC, as an accounting firm. And I do interested in seeing what opportunities I may have in tech companies, maybe being a program manager or product manager.
Yeah.
Any advice that you can share with me?
Yeah, I think that really depends on because different companies, the title, the job description are very different. For example, and I know for some companies, the role for product manager is actually doing project manager role or doing program manager role. So I think in your case, if you want to see what kind of role will be more applicable to your past experience or current experience, I think it really depends on your current responsibility. So if your responsibility is heavy on defining and influencing the product roadmap, customer experience, then the product manager will be more relatable or more closely connected to your current experience. But if your role is more on the execution side, then it will be for program manager.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you. I think our time can accommodate one more question. It's the very last chance. Is there anyone want to ask? All right. So I do have one last question. So in case of today, our topic is introductory to PM role. Could you use one sentence to describe your career as being a PM? If you have a choice to choose again, do you still want to be a PM, or is there any other things that you want to try? Please.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you. So if I can use one sentence to describe the role for PM, right, I think we can say we listen, we talk, we write to help the team make the right decision on product and the customer experience. So that's what we do. If I could have made a different choice on my career path, would I have picked a different role? I don't think so. I do like my job. If I do not like my job, I wouldn't give in those kind of sharing. I would hate talking about product manager. So I do like my job.
Thank you so much for sharing, Bruce. And we do encourage people to chase their dreams and be what they want in terms of career. Thank you so much. 我们今天的直播活动呢已经临近尾声了，然后最后想提醒大家的就是已经临近月底，希望有条件的观众朋友们和志愿者朋友们可以在我们的 Volunteer Match 通过网站 match 给志愿者小时给我们，让我们的活动越做越好。同时，如果对本次活动或者是将来的活动有什么意见或建议或者反馈的话，也通过也请通过在微信群里发的Google Form 等方式联系我们。我们希望能够得到大家的反馈。好。
Can I say one more thing? So I really hope that, right, if you have the passion for PM, please give it a shot. And I do believe that all of us can succeed. It might take some time, take longer, take shorter, but please be confident that you will be, if you like, I think you will be, all of us, we will be a successful PM. So please give it a shot and let me know if you have any questions offline as well.
Thank you so much, Bruce. What a terrific lecture today. We do enjoy the time spending with us. Thank you so much and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
I'll see you in the next session.
See you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.